Feilu Novel Network A.Level Contracted Novel. Pirate Thunder God. Upon waking up, Lei Ming found himself in the world of One Piece, and also appeared on Roger's ship. Apprentice Raleigh, Plan for Thunder Fruit, a generation of Thunder God, officially rising. The limit of Thunder Fruit is a heavenly calamity. Thunder evolved into a heavenly calamity, chopping down all the strong ones of the Pirate King.Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Revitalization and Rejuvenation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is this little ghost still angry? Dead. Kuroka's said this kid had been soaking in the sea for at least 3 days. Although he held a piece of wood, with his system, he starved to death. What else are you doing on the ship? Hurry up and throw it away, bad luck. This is not acceptable. The captain has orders that as long as he has one breath left, he cannot throw it away. This kid is lucky to have met our captain and switched to another pirate group. He has long been thrown into the sea to feed the fish. In the swaying cabin, a young boy of 3 or 4 years old opened his eyes in a daze. His eyebrows were delicate, but his face was pale, and he appeared weak and powerless. Not far away, 2 sailors are wiping the floor, chatting and laughing. Where am I? I'm so hungry. Lei Ming struggled to open his eyes, and what caught his eye was a rudimentary cabin. The swaying ship made him feel dizzy, and coupled with the hunger he had not eaten for a long time, he didn't even have the strength to speak. However, when Lei Ming saw his body, his eyes immediately widened, and then he shouted with all his remaining strength, "Ah! That kid actually woke up." The 2 sailors who were wiping the floor were attracted by the thunderous cries. When they turned their heads and looked over, they were suddenly surprised and somewhat incredulous. What a strong perseverance! He managed to make it through, one of the sailors exclaimed. I'll go inform Kuroka's. Another sailor threw down his things and left. At this moment, the thunder was full of fear and doubt. His body has actually become smaller. Where is he? This is clearly a little boy of 3 or 4 years old. Lei Ming held up his small palms and couldn't help but scream in his heart, is labor and management returning to their youth? He was originally a sophomore student. While crossing the street, he was fascinated by his phone and was hit by a sports car running a red light. When he woke up, he found himself transformed into a little boy of 3 or 4 years old, and still on this unknown boat. Is this a time travel or an attachment rebirth? Forget it, anyway, the labor and management are orphans, without any relatives or connections, it's the same everywhere. The important thing is to live first. This body is too thin and weak, and if it continues like this, the labor and management will be dead and weak again. After the fear, Lei Ming also began to calm down. He is an orphan who has learned to be independent since childhood, so his perseverance is stronger than that of ordinary people. At this moment, Lei Ming felt that it was important not to worry about why his body had become smaller, but to live first. Who knows if he can still be reborn after this death? He doesn't want to personally experiment with the taste of death again. Goo. Lei Ming suddenly felt his stomach growling, and his face was filled with a bitter smile. I'm too hungry, am I going to starve to death? He tried to lift his head, struggling to look not far away, where a sailor was wiping the floor. Big brother. Can't you hear me shouting so loudly just now? Is it me or the floor that matters? Lei Ming stared at the sailor, feeling speechless in his heart. Unfortunately, he was too hungry, weak all over, and had no strength to speak again. The roar just now had already exhausted his last strength. And the sailor in front of him paid no attention to him, still wiping the floor on his own and occasionally humming unknown songs. Lei Ming is simply furious. It's simply heartless, disregarding even a 3 or 4 year old child, as if no one is cleaning the floor. However, Lei Ming no longer had the heart to dwell on these things. He felt the last bit of strength dissipate as he looked up, and his heavy eyelids seemed to fall at any moment. He could hardly hold on anymore. At this moment, bursts of footsteps came. It was an old man and a sailor who pushed open the door and walked in. The sailor was still holding hot porridge and soup, and the fragrance made Thunder feel like he had entered heaven. However, when the old man walked in, Lei Ming was completely stunned. Kuroka's. Lei Ming, who was familiar with One Piece anime and couldn't be more familiar with it, immediately recognized who this old man was. Kuroka's, the guardian of the lighthouse in Twin Cape, and the ship doctor of Roger Pirates. Although he didn't make many appearances, Lei Ming, who was obsessed with the One Piece anime, forgot about this character. After all, he is the One Piece's ship doctor and legendary crew member. So, I've traveled to the world of One Piece. And, this is still on Roger's ship. Thunder murmured and fainted again. At this moment, Kuroka's had already walked to the bedside. After checking the Thunder, he said to the sailor beside him, "Feed him some soup, and give him some porridge when he wakes up." "All right, Kuroka's, I know now," the sailor said with a smile. "By the way, this kid's perseverance is really amazing. With such a small body, he has been soaking in the seawater for 3 days and hasn't eaten anything, but he managed to hold it through. Hee, miracles are everywhere in the sea." Kuroka's also smiled and left. In a daze, Lei Ming felt a fragrant heat rushing down his throat. He couldn't help but suck in it and gradually regain some strength. However, he did not open his eyes, but continued to suck in the heat until the hunger disappeared before slowly falling asleep. Chapter 2. Sense of Existence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. For 3 consecutive days, Lei Ming relied on Carlos Tell to feed him and recover his strength. Not bad, the sailor who fed him, was a pirate, so he was called Carlos Tell. He was a trainee crew member on Roger's ship. There are still many probationary crew members like this on Roger's ship. However, Lei Ming dare not underestimate Carlos Tell. Even if he is a trainee crew member, he is still a trainee crew member on the Pirate King ship and will never be a weak person. After all, in such a cruel place like the Great Route, even the weak cannot survive. "Hey, little Lei Ming, it seems that you are recovering well, and you can get out of bed and walk." On the 4th day, Carlos Tell continued to bring food to Lei Ming. Lei Ming took the plate and looked gratefully at Carlos Tell, nodding and thanking, "Thank you very much, Carlos Tell. If it weren't for you feeding me, I would have starved to death long ago." Hee, you're quite polite, but on this ship, being polite alone is not enough to survive. You should act on your own. Carlos Tell glanced at the Thunderous bowing at him with interest, smiled, and then left. Thunder watched as Carlos Tell walked away, his eyes gradually narrowing, and a sense of crisis unconsciously rose from his heart. Yes, on this Pirate King's ship, on this cruel and great voyage, politeness alone cannot survive, Lei Ming thought to himself. Although Carlos Tell's words were very cold, Lei Ming was very clear in his heart that what he said was right. Roger is not the Pirate King yet. If he wants to become the Pirate King, he will have to go through countless brutal battles. And every battle will result in death, and for a child like him who is 3 or 4 years old and lacks special abilities, the mortality rate is definitely very high. Relying on others to protect him. How could it be? Who would be willing to have no relatives or connections? Perhaps in anime, Roger is a good person and Raleigh is also a good teacher who teaches Luffy, but this is the real world of One Piece, not anime. On this cruel and great voyage, good people will not survive for long. Roger was able to give him a bite to eat and keep him on the ship, which was already a great gift. Thinking of this, Lei Ming gritted his teeth and quickly finished his meal before leaving the cabin. Outside is a blue sea, with surging waves that sweep 3,000 miles. On the deck, the formal crew members are practicing, while the probationary crew members are cleaning. Upon seeing this, Lei Ming also took a broom, which was much longer than him, and he struggled to clean it. Carlos, who was not far away, had already noticed the Thunder coming out. When he saw Thunder starting to clean, he couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Little Thunder, this is our job. You little boy, go and play on the side." However, Lei Ming did not put down his broom. He shook his head to Carlos and said, "Since I'm on the ship, I'm just a trainee crew member, and I don't want to have free lunch." Carlos and several trainee crew members couldn't help but marvel at the words, but they didn't continue to stop Thunder. Interesting little guy. Smart little one. Not far away, the cadres on Roger's ship also looked towards this side, with a hint of admiration and surprise in their eyes. Lei Ming used his actions to give himself a slight sense of presence on this ship. In that case, if I encounter danger during the battle, those cadres may come to my rescue. Lei Ming touched the sweat on his forehead and looked at the group of cadres not far away, thinking to himself. In his current situation, if he wants to survive here, he can only rely on others in his own 3 or 4-year-old body, which is obviously not enough. If a person without a sense of existence dies, then those cadres will not save someone who is unrelated to them. But now, Lei Ming has aroused the interest of some cadres with his actions, which may save his life at a critical moment. Of course, this is only the first step. It is not enough for Lei Ming to survive on this cruel and great voyage alone. Chapter 3. Planning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I must live. I don't want to die early in such a wonderful world. Thundering shouted in his heart. Due to the large number of probationary crew members, the morning cleaning work quickly ended, and Lei Ming sat down on a wooden pole to rest. The group of apprentice crew members not far away started practicing under the guidance of a cadre. Lei Ming looked at them and also wanted to practice, but when he looked at his thin and weak body, he couldn't help but sigh. Without the guidance of a renowned teacher, exercising without authorization can easily cause irreparable harm to such a small body. Lei Ming knows this to some extent, so he dare not exercise without authorization. As for the famous teachers, there are quite a few on this ship, and Vice Captain Raleigh is the best one among them, but without any relatives or connections, who would take the initiative to help him. In the eyes of those cadres, Lei Ming was just a child. Perhaps when the ship docked, the captain would casually throw him down. After all, such a cruel and great voyage was not suitable for a child. Lei Ming also knew this, so he was very worried in his heart. Never leave this ship. Lei Ming gritted his teeth and thought. The island of this great voyage has no safe place and can face the plunder of pirates at any time. Moreover, there are too many pirates here, and it is possible to encounter vicious pirates at any time, making it difficult to survive. On Roger's ship, although it was also very dangerous, it was much safer than on those small islands. At least there were no inconspicuous pirates attacking. Moreover, there are so many strong people here, and if they don't learn something, Lei Ming is really unwilling. Because he doesn't have a system, no golden finger, he can't activate various abilities like the protagonists in other novels, and then become invincible in the world, wildly recruiting young men and beautiful women. He is just a child of 3 or 4 years old, without any ability, and his hands are powerless. Lei Ming's only advantage is his familiarity with the plot and his intelligence in his 20s. How can we survive? If only there were a demon fruit. Lei Ming looked at the blue sea in front of him, looking worried. The devil fruit is a good thing. Even the most useless animal-type devil fruit can enhance its strength and speed, giving its small body a stronger physique than an adult and greatly increasing its survival ability. If it is a superhero series, then the survival ability is even stronger. Of course, the natural demon fruit is the best choice, especially for a small body like him. If he has the ability to transform natural elements, he will basically not die on this ship. After all, those powerful enemies are supported by cadres, and weak enemies cannot harm him. However, the demonic fruits of nature are too rare, and they haven't appeared much in previous anime. let alone here. Moreover, even if there are demon fruits, Lei Ming is not qualified to eat them. Nature is the devil's fruit. If I could leave the great voyage alive, perhaps I could plan something. Lei Ming squinted his eyes and looked at the blue sea in front of him. He thought to himself, the smoking fruit belongs to Smog. This guy got it after joining the Navy. Who knows where it comes from? Not to mention the magma fruit, frozen fruit, and sparkling fruit. Although there is no owner for these natural demon fruits yet, Lei Ming has no idea where they are and cannot obtain them. The only two natural demon fruits that Lei Ming knows are the dark fruit and the sound thunder fruit. Forget about the dark fruit, it will have to be obtained on the ship with the white beard, and it will take more than 20 years. You know, even Ace hasn't been born yet, and the dark fruit still doesn't know where it is. Lei Ming shook his head, and his gaze suddenly turned to the sky. He knew that there was an island deep in the white clouds. Empty Island. The thunder fruit is located on the empty island. If he can go to the island and find any road, there is a possibility of obtaining the thunder fruit. Moreover, as the strongest demon fruit in the natural system, the thunderbolt fruit is definitely the best choice in Thunder's mind. The empty island is located in the depths of white clouds 10,000 meters above, and there are few pirates who can go up, so it is a safe place. Not to mention, there are also thunder fruits. Lei Ming looked at the sky, his gaze becoming increasingly hot. Empty Island is definitely a great place for him to grow up. Moreover, as far as Lei Ming knows, Kuroka's has only recently joined the Roger Pirates, and at this time, there are still about 4 years left until Roger is executed and the era of the great pirates begins. Recalling the big events in previous anime, Roger will travel to the island in the next few years. If he can stay on the ship and follow them to the island, then this plan will be successful. Thinking of this, Lei Ming clenched his fist tightly, his eyes incredibly firm, and he insisted on staying. Not only going to the empty island, this ship is also the only place where I can learn to be domineering, Lei Ming thought to himself. In the world of One Piece, the domineering cultivation methods are very important secrets that cannot be easily learned. And the best and most domineering professors are only those few people, including General Zifa, Hero Kapu, and the underworld king Raleigh is on this ship. Lei Ming is not willing to miss such a good opportunity. Chapter 4. Request. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Day by day, Lei Ming not only fully recovered his body, but also gained a lot of strength, thanks to the food on this ship. After all, it is the ship of the future One Piece king, often encountering powerful sea kings. These killed sea kings eventually become a meal on the plate. Eating their meat, Lei Ming can't even grow strength. With strength, Lei Ming was so enthusiastic about cleaning that he met the apprentice crew members who were cleaning with him these days. Among them are two famous figures. Shanks, one of the future 4 emperors. Joker Bucky, the future 7 Marshal Seas. Moreover, at this time, Shanks had already comprehended the aura of seeing and hearing, which was definitely the only among the apprentice crew members. Moreover, at his age, he had comprehended the aura of seeing and hearing, and his talent was absolutely unparalleled. Even Captain Roger valued him immensely, allowing Raleigh to personally teach him. Similarly, the clown Bucky also showed great talent. He received Raleigh's teachings with Shanks, but he was too lazy and obsessed with treasures. He lacked patience in cultivation and did not work as hard as Shanks. If it weren't for being too lazy, Raleigh even said that Bucky's talent was even higher than Shanks's. Hey, Lei Ming, are you going to the sea with Lord Bucky to search for treasure? If you find it, Lord Bucky will give you 1/10. Well, early in the morning, the clown Bucky was wearing his swimsuit and preparing to jump into the sea to search for the treasure. According to his idea, I don't know how many pirates have died and how many pirate ships have sunk in this sea, and the treasures on those pirate ships must have also sunk in the sea. Therefore, the clown Bucky often goes to the sea to search for treasures, not to mention that sometimes Bucky finds a few treasures, which further motivates him. Along with Lei Ming, he also dragged him onto the pirate ship. However, after drinking a few sips of seawater, Lei Ming died and did not go into the sea. "Brother Bucky, I just thought that Brother Carlos Tell was looking for me. You should go search for the treasure yourself first." Lei Ming heard Bucky's words and quickly left. He finally understood why Bucky hated Shanks so much later on, because Shanks had caused him to eat devil's fruit and he could no longer go down to the sea to search for treasure. Haha, then today's treasures are all from the great Lord Bucky. Haha, Lei Ming, just watch. Lord Bucky will definitely find the great treasure today. Bucky finished speaking and jumped into the sea. Lei Ming looked speechless and muttered, "You've said this countless times, and the total number of treasures you found so far doesn't exceed 100,000 belly. Hey, Lei Ming, did you see where Bucky went?" Just then, Shanks, who had 2 western swords, ran over and asked. Lei Ming pointed to the sea and said, "I just jumped off." "Oh my, this guy's gone treasure hunting again." Obviously, Shanks also knew Bucky's habits. He sighed and looked at Lei Ming with a helpless expression on his face. "This guy is too lazy. Fortunately, Senior Lei asked me to practice swordsmanship with him. Alas, if it were someone else, I would have been thrilled to receive his guidance." Yeah. Lei Ming couldn't help but nod, and he was very envious about it. He really wanted Raleigh's guidance, and that damn Bucky was in good fortune and didn't know it. Thinking of this, Lei Ming couldn't help but say to the helpless Shanks in front of him, "Shanks, I also want to practice. Do you think Senior Raleigh will guide me?" After speaking, Lei Ming looked at Shanks with an expectant expression on his face. "You." Upon hearing this, Shanks looked at Lei Ming with some surprise. His gaze flickered and he immediately smiled and said, "So, Lei Ming, you also want to become stronger." "Well, I want to become stronger." Lei Ming nodded seriously and said, "My hometown was destroyed by a group of pirates, and I was also thrown into the sea by them. If it weren't for the captain saving me, I would have died long ago. If I had strong power, my hometown wouldn't have been destroyed." Lei Ming clenched his fist. Of course, this was all fabricated by him. Shanks, however, did not doubt him and sympathized deeply with Lei Ming's background. After a moment of silence, he nodded to Lei Ming and said, "I will help you ask Senior Lei, but I cannot guarantee that Senior Lei Ming will agree." Yes, Raleigh may not agree to teach a child. You should know that Roger is now suffering from a terminal illness, and all the major and minor matters on board are handled by Vice Captain Raleigh. In addition, with the need to teach Shanks and Bucky, Raleigh doesn't have extra time to guide Thundering. Even teaching Shanks and Bucky is for the sake of the Roger pirates, after all, their talents are there. And Lei Ming, a child of 3 or 4 years old, even if he has high talent, it will take 10 to 20 years to grow up. At that time, Roger had already died, and the Roger pirates were no longer there. Do you still need his help? So, Shanks cannot guarantee whether Raleigh will agree to guide Lei Ming. "Brother Shanks, please, no matter what, I am very grateful to you." Lei Ming couldn't help but feel excited when he saw Shanks agree. Whether successful or not, this is at least an opportunity. Life always takes the first step, doesn't it? Chapter 5. Education. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Will Senior Raleigh agree? I don't think so. Now it's the critical time for Roger to claim the throne, and Raleigh shouldn't have that much extra time. Moreover, Roger is also sick, and he has to deal with everything big and small on the ship. All night, Lei Ming couldn't sleep and felt very uneasy in his heart. Although Shanks had already informed Raleigh of his request, he felt that the success rate was very low. In fact, at this moment, Raleigh is talking to Roger in his room. Roger looked at Raleigh and sighed, "Old man, you've been busy lately. I don't know when my illness will recover." "Don't worry, Kuroka's has already said it. Although it can't be eradicated, it has at least helped you suppress it. You may not be able to find a cure in the future, Raleigh said in a deep voice. He was a bit sad as they teamed up to embark on a great voyage. As they were about to succeed, Roger fell ill and was still terminally ill. Does God want to stop them from achieving their dreams? Ha ha ha, yes, I'm so lucky to have met Kuroka's. The years he bought me were enough for me to fulfill our dreams, Roger chuckled, appearing very open-minded and not at all like a person with a terminal illness. Raleigh shook his head and smiled bitterly. By the way, how is the child I saved? Roger suddenly remembered Lei Ming, who had been receiving treatment from Kuroka's during this time, so he didn't see Lei Ming again. Upon hearing this, Raleigh remembered what Shanks had said to him not long ago. He couldn't help but curl his lips slightly and said with a smile, "This little guy is quite smart. He has been working with that group of probationary crew members since he woke up. Today, he even asked Shanks to invite me to guide him in his cultivation. Oh, is there such a pursuit of strength at such a young age? It seems that my future achievements will not be low, I'm afraid it's another Shanks." Roger was surprised when he heard this. Raleigh nodded and said, "Yeah, if he's talented, maybe he's another Shanks. Unfortunately, you're sick now and I have to deal with all the big and small things on the ship. I don't have time to teach a child. Shanks and Bucky are already enough for me to keep busy." "Old man, this is your mistake. How can you refuse a man's longing for power? That's the first step for a man to pursue his dream path," Roger laughed heartily. Raleigh rolled his eyes and snorted coldly, "If you have the ability, get up from bed and teach him." Roger awkwardly said, "In terms of teaching skills, who can match you? Anyway, I don't have time." Raleigh shook his head. "Alright, anyway, Bucky is lazy by nature. You can let him go treasure hunting and give his spot to Lei Ming. How about that?" Roger said in the middle of the sentence. Raleigh frowned and looked deeply at Roger, saying in a deep voice, "You should be very aware of Bucky's talent. If he works hard, he may even surpass you in the future. He has more hope than Shanks to inherit your dreams." "You also said that he needs to work hard," Roger chuckled bitterly. "Bucky's biggest reason is his nature. He doesn't have such a high pursuit of strength, and his dreams are different from ours. He only wants treasure. Before his nature changes, you are just wasting time." Raleigh fell silent for a moment, then stood up and said calmly, "I understand. I hope your choice is not wrong." After speaking, Raleigh left the room. The next morning, Lei Ming pushed open the door early in the morning, ready to clean the deck, and saw Raleigh standing in front of his door. "Lei. Senior Lei." Lei Ming was taken aback and immediately felt ecstatic in his heart. He knew he had succeeded, because if he had failed, Raleigh could not have come personally. "Little one, since you want to accept my teachings, you need to be prepared to gamble your life," Raleigh said coldly, his gaze fixed on Lei Ming. In an instant, Lei Ming felt immense pressure and sweat drip down his forehead. Now, Raleigh is at the pinnacle of his life, not the kind grandfather that Luffy later met. Standing in front of him now is the co-captain of Roger Pirates, the underworld king Raleigh, a top pirate with a bounty of over 1 billion. Even if there was no hint of domineering leakage, Lei Ming felt immense pressure from the other person's eyes. However, Lei Ming raised his head, his eyes incredibly firm. He looked at Raleigh and loudly said, "Senior Raleigh, I'm ready." Looking at the child in front of him, Raleigh's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He didn't expect Lei Ming to withstand his pressure. You should know that even if he doesn't use his domineering aura, the gaze of that top-level pirate is enough to make ordinary pirates dare not speak, and even tremble. However, although Lei Ming was trembling, his gaze was incredibly firm. "Very good." Raleigh smiled and pointed to the sea outside, saying, "From today on, you don't need to clean up. You go ask Bucky for swimming knowledge. Your task today is to swim around the boat." "What?" Lei Ming was stunned at the words. This is the main ship of Roger Pirates. Although it's not as big as the ship with white beard, it's definitely not small. With his small arms and legs, trying to swim around is like seeking death. Chapter 6. Special Swimming Techniques. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the end, Lei Ming decided to follow Lei Li's orders to complete the task, even though he had no confidence in it. Of course, before that, he obediently went to ask Bucky for advice on swimming knowledge. Although Lei Ming was good at swimming in his past life, it was just ordinary swimming. It was impossible to swim around the boat with these two skills, as the Olympic swimming champion was almost here. But if compared to swimming skills, who can match Bucky? You should know that as early as Bucky went out to sea as a pirate, he often went to the sea to search for treasures, almost every 3 to 5 days, and he had to stay in the sea for most of the time. According to Lei Ming's opinion, Bucky is definitely the swimming champion of the One Piece world. Hey, Lei Ming, are you here? Do you want to follow Lord Bucky down to search for treasures? Although Bucky is very lazy in cultivation, he is very diligent in treasure hunting. He had already put on his swimsuit early in the morning and was ready to go into the sea to search for treasures. When he saw Thundering running, he couldn't help but laugh. Upon hearing this, Lei Ming rolled his eyes. However, despite seeking help from others, he patiently said, "Brother Bucky, Senior Raleigh asked me to ask you about swimming knowledge. He asked me to swim around the boat today." Around the boat? You. Bucky widened his eyes at the words, somewhat incredulous. You should know that Lei Ming is only 3 or 4 years old, and even running around the boat would be difficult, not to mention swimming around the boat with his small arms and legs. However, Bucky turned his head and thought, no, why is Senior Raleigh tormenting Lei Ming so well? Do you think so? Bucky's eyes suddenly froze and he stared at Lei Ming, saying, Senior Raleigh actually teaches you. At that moment, Lei Ming felt a hint of pressure, and he felt a bit shocked in his heart. Who said Bucky's strength is not good? This guy's current strength is probably still above Shanks. Lei Ming took a cold breath in his heart, somewhat incredulous. In the original anime, the clown Bucky is simply comical. He has no real strength and is easily defeated by Luffy, who has just set sail. How can he compare to one of the 4 emperors, Shanks? However, Lei Ming thought carefully and felt something was wrong. After all, no matter what, Bucky, like Shanks, was also a trainee crew member on Roger's ship, and during the battle, Whitebeard even recognized Bucky. You know, what kind of strong person is Whitebeard? After Roger, he is the strongest in the world. And after more than 20 years, as the strongest person in the world, Whitebeard actually recognized a small trainee crew member on Roger's ship. How could this be possible? Will a small person be remembered by Whitebeard for over 20 years? Is it a Whitebeard? Remember well. It must be Bucky, like Shanks, who has amazing potential, that's why Whitebeard remembers it in his heart. Not to mention that later, Bucky subdued a group of criminals in the city and became one of the 7 martial Cs. Looking at the original anime, Bucky completely subdued the group of criminals by relying on their funny and humorous nature, but those criminals were able to be locked up in Advancing City. Is it all just a joke? Are they all fools? If Bucky didn't have any strength, would these arrogant people submit to Bucky? I think it's unreasonable. Indeed, anime cannot be fully trusted. At this moment, Lei Ming felt deeply. This is a real world of One Piece, not an anime from a past life. Compared to anime, this place is even more cruel. Not bad, Brother Bucky. Senior Raleigh is willing to teach me. Lei Ming immediately stared at Bucky with a firm gaze. He could guess that Raleigh was willing to point him out, probably because he had filled Bucky's spot. After all, Raleigh didn't have enough time to point someone out. And this, Bucky also guessed. If it were Bucky in anime, it wouldn't be a big deal, but this Bucky is not Bucky in anime. Lei Ming couldn't help feeling a little uneasy in his heart. He doesn't want to offend Bucky, but for the sake of strength, he must take this step. Ha ha ha, Lei Ming, you dare to accept the guidance of Senior Raleigh. You must have the determination to gamble your life. Lord Bucky really sympathizes with you. However, with you around, Senior Raleigh won't force me to practice anymore. Lord Bucky will have a lot of time to search for treasures. Just as the thunder was trembling, Bucky suddenly burst out laughing, but a strange light flashed in his eyes. Upon hearing this, Lei Ming breathed a deep sigh of relief in his heart and quickly said, "Brother Bucky, of course I have the determination to gamble my life. However, this ship is so big that with my current strength, it is impossible for me to swim around it. Do you have any way to help me? This is difficult." "Forget it, I'll teach you some swimming knowledge first." Bucky tilted his head, feeling a bit annoyed, and then he jumped off the boat with thunder. In the sea, Bucky stepped on the water and said to Lei Ming, "Little Lei Ming, there are only two techniques for swimming in the sea, one is to use force and the other is to breathe. If you can perfectly master these two techniques, then the sea is open to you to swim freely." "Brother Bucky, I know I need to breathe, but with some help." Lei Ming was somewhat puzzled. "Look at me." Bucky smiled slightly at the words and saw him slowly fall down, floating on the sea. Lei Ming widened his eyes and exclaimed in shock, "Brother Bucky, why are you floating and not sinking? I didn't even see your hands and feet paddling in the water." "Huh, just dive and take a look at my belly, and you'll know," Bucky chuckled. Upon hearing this, Lei Ming closed his breath and sank into the water, his gaze fixed on Bucky's belly. He was surprised to find that Bucky's belly was contracting and opening in a regular manner, and his limbs' muscles were also shaking. "Wow!" Lei Ming emerged from the water with a shocked expression on his face and said, "Brother Bucky, what's going on? Your muscles are all moving. Fish in the ocean also have no limbs, but they swim faster than humans. What do they rely on? What do they rely on is their bodies. Since they can do it, why can't we humans do it? Lei Ming, you see, swimming like me is the most effortless, and the fastest, and it can also exercise the muscles throughout the body, making the body stronger." Bucky looked at the shocked thunder on his face and smiled proudly. "Exercise your muscles all over." Lei Ming's eyes lit up, and at that moment, he finally knew the purpose of Senior Raleigh. Chapter 7. Perseverance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After learning swimming with Bucky for half a day, Lei Ming has understood the principles behind it. However, the principles are principles, and if you want to be practical, you still need to explore and train yourself. After teaching Lei Ming, Bucky sank into the sea to search for treasures. Lei Ming began to march around the boat while learning Bucky's teaching methods. Compared to Bucky's speed that is faster than a fish, Lei Ming swims very slowly, and he can't even use his muscles to parade now. He also needs to row with both hands and feet, which requires a lot of effort. In no time, he will be gasping for breath and must stop to rest. Floating in the water, Lei Ming looked up into the distance and felt like a small ant compared to this big ship. After swimming for an hour, he couldn't even reach 1/10 of the captain's size. "Even if I don't eat and swim until it's dark, it's impossible for me to take a detour around the boat, even if it's half a circle." Lei Ming felt bitter in his heart. Although he has swam nearly 1/10 in an hour now, he must have had plenty of strength at the beginning. However, as his strength decreases, the distance he swims will also decrease, and he may not even have the strength to float on the water. However, thinking that this could be a test for Raleigh, Lei Ming didn't want to give up. He didn't want to disappoint Raleigh, otherwise, even if the other party continued to teach him, he wouldn't be too serious, let alone teach him the domineering cultivation methods. You should know that even Shanks and Bucky stayed on the ship for several years, showcasing their talents, before being taught the domineering cultivation method by Raleigh. Lei Ming has not yet met the requirements for cultivating dominance. If he wants to obtain a powerful cultivation method, he must show his strong cultivation talent to Lei Li and make him value it, just like the protagonist Lu Fei in the original work. You can't give up. I absolutely can't give up. Lei Ming gritted his teeth and continued swimming towards the front. Although he felt exhausted, he still didn't stop. 1 hour. 2 hours. 3 hours. Gradually, Lei Ming felt his head suffocating and his whole body feeling a bit weak. His hands were struggling to move, and he felt like he couldn't hold on anymore. Goo goo. Suddenly, Lei Ming choked on 2 mouthfuls of water, which made him wake up a bit. He quickly gritted his teeth and continued to swim hard. Although he tried very hard and swam desperately, his strength was exhausted at this moment, and his swimming speed was very slow. Trying to circle the boat was just a daydream. But Lei Ming's persistence and perseverance surprised the officials on board. They walked to the side of the ship one by one and looked at Lei Ming with their heads full of amazement. Good kid, you have such perseverance and will definitely achieve extraordinary success in the future. This is the boy rescued by the captain, right? I never expected that he would have such perseverance. No wonder Senior Raleigh took notice of him. The cadres were talking to each other. The probationary crew members also leaned over to observe and saw Lei Ming struggling to swim. They were very shocked and couldn't imagine that a child of 3 or 4 years old would have such perseverance. Hey, Bucky, do you see that? Even a child works harder than you. When can you work so hard to cultivate like this? Shanks said to Bucky on the side. Bucky's face remained silent, his eyes fixed on the thunder still circling around the ship in the sea, and his heart was also shocked. However, Bucky ignored Shanks and snorted coldly, what's the use of cultivation? Can you surpass Captain and Senior Raleigh? My goal of flattering adults is to search for all the treasures in the sea. When it comes to treasure, Bucky's eyes sparkle with excitement. Let's go have lunch first. How long do you think this kid can hold on? I estimate that it will last for at most 1 hour. I don't think he can hold on for even half an hour. The cadres left one by one and went to the restaurant for lunch. The apprentice crew also left, leaving only Shanks and Bucky. Shanks looked at Bucky and asked, aren't you going to eat? Bucky stared at the thunder in the sea and shook his head, saying, wait and see, Lord Bucky wants to see if this kid can hold on for a while. Oh. Shanks' eyes flickered, and he glanced at Bucky with some surprise. Of course, he knew Bucky was worried about the thunder, so he stayed. I never expected that Bucky would also care about people. Shanks was somewhat surprised. Looking at the thunder struggling to swim in the sea, the resolute gaze shook Shanks a bit. Unconsciously, Shanks also stayed behind and accompanied Bucky to stare at Lei Ming. Another 3 hours have passed at this moment. Lei Ming had already felt his limit. He didn't even know how much water he had taken, and his stomach was a bit swollen. His consciousness gradually became blurred, and he only had the instinct to swim forward desperately. However, as his physical strength decreased, he almost remained motionless and could sink into the sea at any time. Has it reached its limit? On the ship, Shanks was full of emotion on his face. He didn't expect Lei Ming to be able to hold on for 3 hours. Humph, that's it. Bucky snorted coldly, but the person had already jumped into the sea. He picked up Thunder and threw it directly onto the deck, then changed his clothes and went to eat. Shanks shouted at his back, hey, are you just leaving him alone like this? I'll take care of you, Lord Bucky is going to eat, Bucky said without looking back. Shanks smiled bitterly, looked at Lei Ming, picked him up, put him inside the room, and changed into clean clothes for him. Lei Ming was still unconscious, even lying in bed, his hands even making water movements, which shocked Shanks very much. What a tough guy. Shanks muttered and turned around to leave. Chapter 8. Madman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I don't know how long it took, but Lei Ming gradually woke up from his coma, feeling extremely hungry, as if he could eat even an elephant. Moreover, he could already smell a scent of meat. Little one, wake up and eat quickly. Only when you're full can you have the strength to continue practicing. Raleigh's voice came from beside him. Lei Ming slowly opened his eyes and immediately saw Lei sitting across from him, as well as the sumptuous grilled meat on the table. Without any thought to pay attention to Raleigh, Lei Ming felt like he was starving crazy. He immediately got up and rushed towards the table, grabbing the barbecue and devouring it in a flurry. Raleigh looked on with a smile and said, "Eat more. These are all Sea King meats that will enhance your physical strength and strength." Lei Ming responded as he ate wildly. He had already eaten 3 times the amount of food he used to eat. I can't believe he could eat so much. Maybe I'm too hungry. Finally, after Lei Ming swept away all the food on the table, he let out a satisfied burp and lay comfortably on the chair. Little one, your current body cannot accept difficult reinforcement training. Only by swimming can you exercise your entire body muscles without causing irreparable damage. That's why I asked you to go swimming around the boat. After Lei Ming finished eating, Lei said slowly. Lei Ming has gradually understood now, because after eating these Sea King foods, he feels that his strength is stronger than before. I can't imagine that with just one training, one can clearly feel the increase in strength. Of course, this was also Lei Ming's first training when he broke his own limits. Fortunately, his perseverance was amazing, which ordinary people cannot achieve. Moreover, these Sea Kings are powerful creatures, and their meat already contains powerful energy. Eating them will certainly enhance the thunder. Ordinary people do not have such conditions to cultivate. I understand, Senior Raleigh, I will continue to work hard, Lei Ming said firmly as he looked at Raleigh. Raleigh was taken aback, and suddenly thought of Bucky. If Bucky had worked as hard as Lei Ming, he probably wouldn't have imagined the future. Unfortunately, that guy was too lazy. Raleigh shook his head and then instructed Lei Ming a few words before leaving. In the following time, Lei Ming had to go into the sea every day to parade around the boat, exhausted from swimming every time, and then rescued by Bucky to shore. After he wakes up, he eats a big meal. With the care of Lei Ming can eat Sea King food every day, and his strength, even his body, is rapidly increasing. However, like Lei Ming, who had to train himself until he fell unconscious every day, his strong perseverance gradually conquered everyone on this ship. Gradually, the pirates on board all referred to Lei Ming as crazy. Of course, this was a friendly term, indicating that they had recognized this little crew member. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Under the crazy cultivation of thunder, his body, which was 3 or 4 years old, was already the size of an ordinary child, 5 or 6 years old, and his strength was even comparable to that of a teenager. Of course, in addition to Lei Ming's efforts, the daily consumption of Sea King food is also crucial. You should know that since practicing, the food Lei Ming eats is all Sea Kings. Every day is a big supplement. I can't imagine that in just 1 month, I really did it. On this day, Lei Ming finally successfully circled the ship and shouted excitedly. On the ship, the group of pirates were also cheering for the thunder. Wow, Madman, you succeeded. Oh. Madman, you're really amazing. Madman, labor and management admire you too much. It can be seen that after a month of interaction, Lei Ming has completely integrated with this group of crew members. A strong person is ultimately respected. Although Lei Ming is not yet a strong person, his perseverance has moved everyone. Brother Shanks. Brother Bucky. After Thunder boarded the ship, he smiled and looked at the welcoming Shanks and Bucky. Over the past month, the relationship between the 3 of them has become even better. Hee, good kid, you really succeeded. You deserve to be Lord Bucky's disciple. Bucky patted Lei Ming's shoulder and laughed heartily. Shanks curled his lips and said, you just taught him how to swim. Just talk about master, that's also Senior Raleigh. Calling swimming is also a master. Bucky wanted to say more, but suddenly his face changed. Shanks's face also changed. The two of them looked up at the distance together. At this moment, the officials on board also seemed to have discovered something, all staring into the distance. "What's wrong, Brother Bucky?" Lei Ming looked at them with some confusion, but couldn't see anything. "Here we go." Bucky suddenly spoke. Immediately after, Shanks also spoke up, his face fixed, and he said, "Here you are, what a powerful aura. Ha ha ha. Roger, finally found you guys. Stop me now." As Shanks spoke, a loud voice came from the distant sea. The sound was deafening, as if thunder was thundering. Thunder was so scared that he quickly covered his ears and felt his body tremble. At this moment, he also saw small black dots appearing on the distant sea surface. "That's a naval fleet." Chapter 9. The Powerful Kappa. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's the Navy. The Navy is here. Get ready for battle. Looking at the naval fleets, the pirates on board suddenly exclaimed, but they were not panicked and quickly prepared for battle. Even the apprentice crew members went to grab their weapons and stared closely at the approaching naval fleet ahead. Navy. At this moment, Lei Ming also realized and felt very uneasy in his heart. A month of calm and tranquility has finally come to an end, and this is ultimately a great rout that cannot be without combat. Although Lei Ming was well prepared, he still couldn't help but tremble at this moment. After all, he is just a child. Although after a month of training, he is equivalent to an ordinary teenager, but his strength cannot withstand even a single bullet from the Navy, let alone those elite navies. "Hey, Xiao Lei Ming, hurry back to the cabin." At this moment, Bucky grabbed Lei Ming and threw him towards the cabin. At the same time, Shanks had already drawn his western sword, his sharp eyes fixed on the front. Lei Ming hid in the cabin, staring out through the crack in the door. The speed of the naval fleet was very fast, and in no time it could be seen clearly. There were over 30 ships, fan-shaped, surrounding the Roger pirates. "Roger, don't come out for a fight yet." The previous loud voice came again, and this time the power was even more terrifying. Before the voice arrived, a terrifying aura swept over, accompanied by waves of turbulence that swept up the originally calm sea, heading towards Roger's pirate group. "Oh my goodness, is this really caused by human labor?" Lei Ming's face turned pale with fear. When watching anime in my past life, Whitebeard was on top of the war, shattering the space and causing a huge tsunami. At that time, I didn't feel anything through the computer screen, but now watching this non-human power with my own eyes is really terrifying. The huge waves are towering, reaching over 10 meters high, almost drowning this pirate ship. The sea is rough and the sound waves are deafening, as if the whole world is about to fall. Lei Ming was so frightened that he trembled all over. This great power was so shocking. Absolutely a great general, is it Zifa here? At this point, Red Dog and Yellow Ape should not have grown up yet, Lei Ming thought to himself. From such a distance, anyone can create such terrifying strength, except for a general who comes forward. However, the distance is too far, and Lei Ming still doesn't have such good eyesight to see the incoming person clearly. Hee, Cap, you're really biting hard and not letting go. At this moment, Raleigh appeared and didn't see what he was doing. He just swung his sword effortlessly and a blazing sword burst through the void, breaking through the surging waves and rescuing the pirate ship. Surprisingly, it's Kappa. Lei Ming's pupils narrowed as he was at the pinnacle of his life, probably no less powerful than Whitebeard. No wonder he had such a terrifying aura that could cause destruction from such a distance. Cap is famous for chasing Roger and becoming a naval hero, it seems like he did. Lei Ming stared closely at the crack outside the door. With the appearance of Raleigh, the distance between the two fleets has become very close, at least for those who are at their peak. Such a distance is not a problem at all, it can be reached in an instant. Thunder could be faintly seen, and a tall figure rose from a naval warship, stepping into the void. And, from his hands, he threw 2 shells towards the Roger pirates. Cap, shells can't be thrown around. Big shield. A figure quickly jumped up from the Roger pirate ship and transformed into a huge shield in the sky, emitting a blazing light, blocking the shells Cap threw over. Are you the captain of the Roger pirates team, Tobes with the shield fruit? I heard that your shield has absolute defense, which can easily defend against the attacks of generals. Cap stood in the air with a cold expression as he stepped on the moon step. You can give it a try. Tobes laughed, but his eyes were full of solemnity. He could indeed defend against the general's attack, but the person in front of him was a naval hero even more powerful than the general. Then let's try the old man's iron fist. Cap shouted and threw his fist directly at him, with a terrifying aura. It can be clearly seen that the space is exposed under his fist, like a trembling fruit with a white beard. However, the white beard relies on the trembling fruit, while Cap relies entirely on his dominance and strength. It is really hard to imagine that human labor can achieve this. In terms of physical skills, Kappa should be the strongest in the world. Lei Ming thought to himself, his eyes filled with envy, and he also hoped to have such a powerful physical skill. Do we still need devil fruit for such terrifying physical skills? Devil's fruit also has weaknesses such as seawater and sea tower stones, but Kappa is not afraid of these. Chapter 10. Combat Reflection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom. Cap punched on the huge shield of Tobes' incarnation, and it was clear that the surrounding space was shattered. The black fist made the world tremble, and waves of air swept through the center of their attack, causing the ships below to vibrate. Lei Ming hid in the cabin, feeling pain in his face from the strong wind blowing towards him. He couldn't help but close his eyes. What a terrifying force. Lei Ming sighed in his heart. However, to his surprise, Tobes actually blocked this terrifying punch. Although he looked a bit embarrassed, he was not injured and truly deserved to be the captain of Roger Pirates. Shield fruit. It turns out that this kind of garbage fruit can also be developed to this level, but it seems that Tobes' body skills are also very powerful and his domineering aura is also very strong. He is not solely relying on the ability of devil fruit. Lei Ming carefully observed the battle, and such a peak battle is not something he often sees. Of course, he will not miss it. From the battles between Tobes and Cap, Lei Ming realized that if a person wants to become a top-notch powerhouse, they cannot rely solely on the ability of devil fruit. Body skills are an essential foundation. Not only Tobes, but also other team captains of the Roger Pirates, including Shanks and others, have developed powerful physical skills under Raleigh's guidance. Combining physical skills with demon fruit abilities is the key to unleashing the most powerful power. Lei Ming couldn't help but think of Enelu in the original work. This guy has a top-notch aura and a powerful heart network, as well as the strongest natural demon fruit, the Thunderbolt fruit. Surprisingly, he was defeated by Luffy, who has just set sail and doesn't know how to be domineering. Even if Luffy had a protagonist aura, Enelu wouldn't be so bad. Although it has the restraining effect of Devil's Fruit, if Enelu had a powerful body spell at that time, then Luffy would undoubtedly be defeated. You should know that Luffy not only relies on his rubber fruit, but also receives hellish training from Kappa since childhood. His physical strength is absolutely unparalleled among his peers, and he combines the two to achieve such strength. Enelu is losing in physical surgery. Of course, there is also combat experience. Luffy fought all the way and had a wealth of combat experience, but Enelu was almost invincible on the empty island, and there was no decent place on the island, so he didn't have much combat experience. It seems that even if I get the Thunder Fruit in the future, I can't give up my physical cultivation. Lei Ming stared at the battle outside and thought to himself that he didn't want to become the pitiful Enelu. Giving the Thunder Fruit to Enelu is simply a waste. When watching anime in his past life, Lei Ming was very unhappy. Such a powerful demon fruit was completely ruined by Enelu. Get out of here, old man. At this moment, Cap finally broke through Tobe's obstruction and stepped onto the Roger pirate ship. Tobe's strength is ultimately not as strong as Cap's. Being able to withstand it for so long is already the limit. Boom. Kappa was very confident, even if he fell on the enemy's ship and was surrounded by them, he didn't worry at all. Instead, he was the first to attack the crowd. How could Raleigh allow him to act recklessly and immediately strike with a sword, blocking Cap at the bow of the ship? At the collision between the two, a terrifying wave of air blew away everyone around them. Lei Ming hid behind the crack in the door, flipping a few somersaults under the strong wind. Ha ha ha, Raleigh, your swordsmanship is pretty good. Cap laughed loudly, as if he had encountered an opponent who could fight, looking very excited. Kappa, your domineering aura is really difficult to deal with. Raleigh's face was solemn. His swordsmanship was very strong, completely breaking through Kappa's blockade. However, Kappa cultivated his armed-colored domineering aura to a near-perfect level, covering his entire body in black paint with no dead corners, and he didn't even care if Raleigh split open. Haha, this attack power is useless to me. Let's call Roger along, Cap laughed and punched Raleigh open. Then his eyes froze, and his sharp pupils burst into a terrifying aura. Not good. Quickly dodge. Raleigh shouted loudly upon seeing this. Accompanied by Raleigh's cheers, a powerful and domineering aura burst out from Cap, sweeping in all directions. Damn it! Lei Ming let out a mournful cry, rolled his eyes, and fell to the ground. The probationary crew members on the ship also fell to the ground, with only the cadres still standing upright, but also gritting their teeth and feeling a lot of pressure. In addition, Shanks and Bucky were the only trainee crew members who could still stay awake. They stood leaning on their swords, looking in shock at the terrifying domineering aura unleashed by Cap ahead. What a powerful and domineering presence. What a monster. Shanks and Bucky felt their bodies trembling. They can't hold on anymore. Oh, the two probationary crew members were able to block the old man's domineering aura. Cap looked towards Shanks and Bucky in surprise. The cadres of Roger's pirates were all offered rewards, and Cap knew them all, so he judged Shanks and Bucky to be probationary crew members. He was very shocked that two probationary crew members could resist his Bucky. Such talent is probably comparable to the three monsters of Red Dog, Cap thought to himself, his gaze becoming sharper as he looked at Shanks and Bucky. Such a potential pirate cannot be kept. However, Raleigh had already stood in front of him and swung his sword fiercely. Kappa, do you think I don't exist? How could you unleash your domineering aura so recklessly? Boom, the battle has become even more intense. However, all of this had nothing to do with Lei Ming. He had already fallen into a coma.